Oh, you're here. Good. I've got another betrayal story for you. Sit down. She said she cheated by accident, like it was a spilled drink, not a choice. And the worst part? For a moment, I wanted to believe her. My name's Jason. I'm 29 years old, and for the past 6 years, I've been working as a mechanic at my father's garage. The kind of place that smells like motor oil, old tires, and burnt coffee, where customers bring you their beat-up sedans and pray you can squeeze another year out of them. It's hard work, long hours, but honest. I was proud of that. I still live close to home. My older brother, Ryan, was smooth-talking, confident, the type people believed even when he was dead wrong. I was the opposite, the steady one, the one who showed up, put in the work, and didn't make waves. And then there was Chloe, my girlfriend, 27, smart when she wanted to be, and the kind of woman who could walk into a room and bend it to her mood. We've been together for 4 years, talking about marriage, kids, the whole package. I thought she was my partner, my person. That night started like any other. I'd been at the shop until late, trying to finish a job that had stretched way past its deadline. By the time I walked into the apartment, grease still under my nails and my stomach running on fumes, I was ready for a shower and sleep. Instead, Chloe was sitting on the couch, arms folded tight across her chest, eyes darting like she was trapped in a corner. "You're home late," she said, voice flat. "Yeah," I muttered, kicking my boots off. "Long day." I expected the usual back and forth about me working too much, about how I was never around. Instead, she stared at me like she was choking on something. And then, without warning, she said the words that flipped my life inside out. "I cheated on you." It landed like a wrench to the gut. I froze, halfway through pulling my jacket off, brain stalling like an engine stripped of spark. "What?" I asked, voice smaller than I wanted. Her lip trembled. It was an accident. I let the jacket drop. "An accident?" She nodded quickly, almost too quickly. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was upset. I drank too much, and it just happened. It doesn't mean anything, Jason." It was nothing. I stared at her, trying to make sense of it. People trip over curbs by accident. They send a text to the wrong person by accident. Nobody cheats by accident. But she was crying now, tears streaking her cheeks, shoulders curling like she wanted me to feel sorry for her. My chest felt hollow. "Who?" I asked. Her eyes flicked away. "That doesn't matter. It was one time. You mean everything to me, Jason. I swear." I laughed, a bitter sound that didn't feel like mine. "It doesn't matter?" She reached for me, but I pulled back. "I didn't want to tell you, but I couldn't lie. I want us to move past this. Please, don't make it a big deal. It was just a mistake." "A mistake." She said it like she dropped a glass and wanted me to sweep it up, no questions asked. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just stood there, watching her bury her face in her hands, whispering apologies that didn't sound real. My mind kept circling the same thought. If it was an accident, then why couldn't she look me in the eye? Why couldn't she say who it was? The silence stretched until it felt like the walls were pressing in. I finally walked past her, muttering, "I need to sleep." In our bedroom, I lay on my side of the bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Chloe crawled in beside me later, careful, quiet, like I was a bomb that might go off if she breathed too loudly. But I didn't explode. I didn't demand answers. I just lay there, my body stiff, while her steady breathing eventually filled the room. I tried to convince myself maybe she was right, that maybe it was one mistake, one stupid night that didn't mean anything. But the way she dodged the who, the way her story had too many holes, it gnawed at me. As I lay in the dark, one truth planted itself deep, like a nail driven straight into my chest. Chloe wasn't telling me everything. And if she could lie about this, then I had no idea what else she was hiding. The morning after, I told myself I could believe her. People make mistakes, right? Maybe she really had been drunk. Maybe it really didn't mean anything. My chest still felt raw from the confession, but I wanted to believe Chloe wasn't the kind of person who would tear us apart on purpose. She was quiet that morning. She made coffee, avoided my eyes, and kissed my cheek before I left for the garage. It felt stiff, rehearsed, like she was playing the role of a girlfriend who had made a small mistake and was now ready to move on. But I couldn't. The words wouldn't leave my head. I cheated on you. It was an accident. I tried drowning myself in work. Wrench in hand, oil on my skin, the kind of sweat that usually clears your head. But every time I stopped moving, the thought rushed back. An accident? With who? That weekend. We had a family dinner at my parents' house. My father sat at the head of the table, talking about business at the garage. My mom fussed over food, making sure everyone's plate was full. It should have been normal, but it wasn't, because Ryan was acting strange. My brother had always been confident, loud even, the type to tell a story, slap me on the back, and make a joke at my expense. But that night, he barely spoke. He kept his eyes on his plate, chewed slowly, and answered questions with clipped words. And whenever I looked at him, really looked, he wouldn't hold my gaze. His eyes darted, like I was a cop and he'd just committed a crime. It hit me like a slow drip, not all at once. The way Chloe leaned back in her chair, looking relaxed, while Ryan shifted like he was sitting on nails. The way she glanced at him once or twice when she thought no one was watching. My stomach tightened. I tried to shake it off. Maybe Ryan was stressed. Maybe Chloe was just making sure he passed the mashed potatoes. But deep down, the pieces didn't fit the way they should have. A week later, Chloe started going out more. At first, it was little things. Running to the store, seeing a friend, errands she claimed couldn't wait. She never invited me along, never said which friend. When I asked, she'd snap, "Why don't you trust me?" After everything, I thought we were moving forward. Moving forward. Those words burned. Moving forward meant never asking questions, never poking holes in her story. Moving forward meant swallowing my gut instinct until it rotted me from the inside out. And then there was my car. One night, I came home and saw the mileage on the odometer higher than it should have been. I hadn't driven anywhere unusual. The next day, she casually mentioned she borrowed it to run errands because hers made a funny noise. "No big deal," she said, handing me the keys with a smile. I checked her car later. Nothing wrong. It started fine, drove fine. The explanation didn't hold. Another time, she borrowed it again. Came home hours later with a bag of groceries. 2 items inside, a carton of milk and a loaf of bread. She could have bought that from the corner store, 2 blocks away. Instead, she'd been gone almost 3 hours. My chest grew heavier with every lie. And still, I stayed quiet. But silence doesn't stop the truth from clawing at you. At night, I'd lie awake next to her, staring at the ceiling while she scrolled on her phone, turn the screen just slightly away from me. I wanted to grab it, to see what she was hiding. But part of me was scared. Scared that if I saw the truth, I wouldn't be able to pretend anymore. Ryan didn't make it easier. Every time we were in the same room, his discomfort grew more obvious. At the garage, he'd avoid working next to me. At dinner, he found reasons to leave early. His voice cracked when he spoke to me, like the weight of something unspoken was sitting on his throat. The pattern was too sharp to ignore. Chloe growing colder. Ryan growing more nervous. My car become the go-to excuse for her disappearing acts. It wasn't random. It wasn't an accident. It was something else. Something deeper. I kept thinking back to her first confession. How desperate she'd been to make me believe it didn't matter. How quickly she shut down when I asked, "Who?" I'd wanted to believe her, but now I couldn't. Every instinct in me screamed that the betrayal wasn't just real. It was closer than I'd ever let myself imagine. And my gut told me, if I kept looking the other way, they'd bury me with their lies before I ever saw the truth. By that point, Ignoring the signs felt like trying to hold back a flood with my bare hands. Every excuse, every late night, every nervous glance from Ryan piled higher and higher until it drowned out common sense. I couldn't pretend anymore. One night, Chloe fell asleep on the couch. Her phone buzzed against the armrest, the glow lighting up her face. I stared at it for what felt like an hour, heart pounding like I was about to commit a crime. Maybe I was. Maybe digging through her phone made me know better than her. But the weight in my chest said I had to know. I slid the phone from her hand and unlocked it. The messages were right there. No hidden app, no elaborate code. Just a thread marked with Ryan's name. My thumb froze. My brother's name. I opened it. The screen was filled with weeks of texts. Not one night. Not one accident. Weeks. Last night was insane. Wish we could do it again without worrying about him. Use his car again, it's easier. He won't notice. He's too busy working. Anyway, you deserve better. I scrolled faster while rising. They joked about me. They laughed about how easy it was to sneak around. Chloe even sent a selfie from the driver's seat of my car, grinning with my keys hanging from her fingers like a trophy. I had to put the phone down before I threw it against the wall. My own brother, my girlfriend, using my car, sneaking into motels and back alleys while I was busting my ass at the garage, thinking I was building a future for us. I stumbled into the kitchen, gripping the counter to keep from collapsing. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd ever felt. Not just Chloe's, but Ryan's. The one person who was supposed to have my back, blood or not, was the one driving the knife in. The sound of footsteps pulled me back. Chloe shuffled in, rubbing her eyes, hair messy from the couch pillow. "What are you doing up?" she asked, voice groggy. I stared at her, throat tight. For a second, I almost showed her the phone. Almost shoved the truth in her face right there. But the words stuck. "Couldn't sleep," I muttered instead, slipping past her. She went to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and didn't notice how my hands shook. Back in the bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed with her phone heavy in my palm. Every instinct screamed to confront her, but something else stopped me. If I came at her now, she'd twist it. She'd cry, deny, make me the villain again. She'd done it before. No, I needed to think. The next morning, I walked into the garage, and Ryan was already there. He glanced up from under the hood of a car, eyes catching mine for a split second before darting away. His jaw tightened. His hand shook around the wrench. I knew. He knew. We both knew. I almost walked straight over and smashed his face into the engine block. But instead, I kept walking, my boots echoing on the concrete. My father's voice cut through the room, barking orders, oblivious of quiet war happening right under his nose. That was the worst part. They were both pretending nothing was wrong. Ryan was cracking jokes with the guys, and Chloe was playing house like she hadn't torn ours apart. Meanwhile, I was carrying the truth like a live wire burning through my hands. I started noticing everything after that. The times Chloe ran errands lined up with Ryan's sudden disappearances. The way she'd smile at a text, screen tilted just out of my view. The smell of cologne that wasn't mine lingered on her jacket. It wasn't paranoia anymore. It was proof. Every word I'd read that night carved itself into my memory. The accident she'd sworn was nothing had turned into a routine. My brother wasn't just guilty, he was comfortable. And Chloe wasn't sorry. She was proud. I sat in my truck one night after another long shift, gripping the wheel until my knuckles went white. My whole body trembled with the urge to drive away and never look back. But running wasn't for me. No, if they wanted to bury me in lies, then I'd make sure they both looked me in the eye when I dug them out. I resolved that then I would confront them, not together. Not in some screaming match where they could back each other up. Separately, strip them of their excuses one by one, and force them to face the truth they'd been hiding. Because if Chloe thought she could call betrayal an accident, and if Ryan thought he could hide behind her lies, then they were about to learn I wasn't the fool they'd taken me for. armed with the truth burning a hole in my chest. I knew silence wasn't an option anymore. Every day I stayed quiet gave them room to keep playing me for a fool. And if I let that continue, I wasn't just their victim, I was their accomplice. I chose Chloe first. It was a Sunday afternoon. She was curled on the couch with a blanket, scrolling through her phone like she hadn't detonated my life weeks earlier. The smell of coffee hung in the air, and for a moment, I almost let it pass. Almost pretended we were still normal. But normal was gone. "Chloe," I said, my voice low but steady. She glanced up, half smiling. "Yeah, I know who it was." Her face dropped, color draining so fast it looked like she'd seen a ghost. "What?" I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "My brother, Ryan. Don't bother lying." Her mouth opened, then closed. She stammered, "Jason, and then the tears came fast. Too fast. She covered her face, voice cracking. "I didn't want to hurt you. I was lonely. You were always at the shop, always tired, never home. I felt invisible. Ryan, he was just there." I stared at her, fury bubbling up but cold, controlled. "You cheated on me with my brother. And your excuse is that I was working, providing? That's your justification?" She dropped her hands, eyes wide, trying to pull me into her gravity. "You don't understand. It wasn't about him. It was about me needing something you weren't giving me. He came on to me, Jason. He knew I was vulnerable." The words twisted like knives. "So it's my fault, and his fault, but not yours." Her voice rose, desperate. "You weren't here. You left me alone in this relationship, and I made a mistake. I never stopped loving you." I stood, towering over her. You don't love someone and sneak around with their brother for weeks. You don't call that an accident. Her tears fell harder. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. The contact felt toxic. Her face crumpled when I turned away, and for once, I didn't feel guilty. I left her sobbing on the couch, grabbed my jacket, and drove straight to the garage. Ryan was there, pretending to work, sleeves rolled up, sweat on his brow. But the way he flinched when I walked in told me everything. He knew this was coming. "Ryan," I said flatly. He set down the wrench, too, carefully, like putting a weapon on the ground. "Jason, I know." His shoulders sagged. For a second, I thought he'd apologize, own up to it. Instead, he rubbed the back of his neck, eyes darting away. "Look, it happened, okay? But it wasn't like you think." My fists clenched. "Enlighten me." "She came on to me first," he blurted, voice quick, defensive. "I told her it was wrong. I tried to push her away, but she wouldn't let it go. She said you weren't there for her. She made me feel like I was helping her. The words almost made me laugh. You expect me to believe you're the victim here?" I stepped closer, the distance between us evaporating. "You're my brother, my blood, and you screwed my girlfriend in my car, and you're telling me it was her fault." His jaw tightened. "I didn't plan it, Jason. It just happened." I shoved him then, hard against the workbench. Tools rattled. A wrench clattered the floor. His face flushed, anger flashing in his eyes. "You should have been there for her," he snapped suddenly, spittle flying. "You were too busy kissing Dad's ass, trying to prove yourself in the shop. She needed someone." I stepped up. The words detonated in my chest. My arm cocked back, ready to smash his face, to bleed the betrayal out of him the only way I knew how. "Jason!" My father's voice boomed across the garage, sharp as a hammer strike. I froze. He was standing in the doorway, my mother just behind him. Their eyes darted between me and Ryan, the tension in the room thick enough to choke on. "What the hell is going on?" my father barked. Ryan straightened, brushing off his shirt like nothing had happened. "It's not what it looks like." My mother's voice was trembling. "Jason?" I looked at them both, throat raw, and said the words anyway. "He's been sleeping with Chloe." The silence that followed was suffocating. My father's face twisted with disgust, not at Ryan, but at me. "Don't you dare bring this filth into my garage," he growled. "You expect us to believe that your brother would do something like that? That you're not just trying to blame him for your problems?" My chest caved in. "You think I'd make this up?" My mother shook her head, tears in her eyes. "Jason, please. Stop. This isn't the way." Ryan stepped forward, voice calm now, rehearsed. He's been paranoid. He accused Chloe because he couldn't face how he had neglected her. Now he's turning it on me. The betrayal wasn't just Chloe. It wasn't just Ryan. It was my own parents looking at me like I was the liar, the unstable one. My father jabbed a finger at me. "If Chloe strayed, maybe ask yourself why. You work too much. You're never around. You've always been distant. Don't you dare pin this on Ryan." I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred with rage and hurt as Ryan stood there, silent now, letting our father do the work of defending him. That was when it hit me. I wasn't just betrayed by my girlfriend and my brother. My parents had chosen them over me. They'd rather believe the easy story, the one that protected the golden sun, and spared them the shame of the truth. I backed away, my voice hoarse. "You think this is my fault? Fine. Believe whatever you want. But don't ever call me paranoid again when it all blows up in your faces." Their silence followed me out of the garage, louder than any scream could have been. And as I climbed into my truck, hands trembling on the wheel, one thought cut through the fog. If they all wanted me to be the villain, then maybe it was time I stopped playing their hero. By now, the betrayal wasn't just between me and Chloe, or me and Ryan. It had spilled into every corner of my life, turning family into enemies and home into a battlefield. Dinner was the worst. We sat around the long wooden table at my parents' house like we always had, plates heavy with roast beef and mashed potatoes. But nothing tasted the same. The air buzzed with unspoken words, sharp glances, and the faint crack of silverware against porcelain. Chloe sat next to Ryan now, not me, and she leaned into him just enough for it to sting, her shoulder brushing his arm, her laugh just a little too loud at his muttered jokes. It was deliberate, a test, like she wanted to see how much humiliation I could stomach before snapping. I caught her eye once, and she smirked. Not a smile, not an apology. A smirk. My father cut into his meat and cleared his throat. "Jason," he said, not looking up, "this needs to stop." I set my fork down, pulse quickening. "What needs to stop?" He sighed, shaking his head like I was a child who couldn't grasp simple instructions. "This drama. These accusations. Chloe told us everything. You're letting your jealousy poison this family. Fix it. Apologize. Move on." My jaw locked. Apologize? For being betrayed? My father's eyes finally met mine, cold and hard. "You think you're the only one who's ever been hurt? Life isn't fair, Jason. You keep making this bigger than it is, and you're dragging the rest of us down with you. Enough." I looked at my mother, hoping for something, anything, but she kept her gaze fixed on her plate, hands folded tight in her lap. She couldn't even meet my eyes. "Mom," I said softly, desperate, "you believe me, don't you?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She swallowed and pushed the pea around her plate with her fork. That silence cut deeper than any insult. Ryan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, looking smug. "You've always been dramatic, Jace. Always making yourself the victim. Maybe it's time you grow up." I shot him a look that could have lit him on fire, but Chloe beat me to the punch. She slid her hand over his on the table, fingers intertwining, a bold display in front of everyone. "Ryan's been here for me," she said softly, her eyes locked on mine. "When you weren't." My stomach turned. "You're sitting there, rubbing it in my face, and I'm the one who needs to grow up?" My father slammed his fist against the table. The glasses rattled. "That's enough. If you can't handle this like a man, then maybe you don't belong at this table." The words hit like a hammer. I pushed back my chair, the legs screeching against the tile. "You're right," I said, my voice shaking but strong. "Maybe I don't. I walked out, leaving my plate half full. My mother called after me once, weakly, but she didn't follow. No one did. The days blurred after that. Every interaction with my family was poisoned. At the garage, Dad barked orders at me like I was the hired help, not his son. Ryan strutted around like he'd earned the place, Chloe hanging around more often, dropping off lunch for him, kissing his cheek in plain view. It was a circus, and I was the clown. I tried talking to my mother privately, but she flinched at every word. "I don't want to take sides," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "Can't you just let it go?" "Let it go." I asked, my voice raw. "They destroyed everything, and you want to pretend it didn't happen?" She looked at me like a stranger. Sometimes pretending is better than breaking the family apart. That was the moment I realized I'd already lost her, too. Everywhere I turned, I was the problem. The whispers at family gatherings, the looks from employees of the garage, even old family friends who suddenly avoided me. Chloe and Ryan's story had spread, and I was the villain in it. It didn't matter what I said anymore. Truth wasn't the currency my family traded in. Comfort was. Convenience was. And siding with Chloe and Ryan was easier than facing the ugliness of what they'd really done. At night, lie in my bed alone, I replayed every word, every look, every silence. And slowly, the truth sank in. Nothing I said would ever matter to them. They'd chosen their version of reality, and in that story, I was the cause, not the victim. I wasn't part of family anymore. I was the scapegoat holding their fragile world together, and they were fine letting me bleed for it. The realization settled in my chest like stone. If I wanted peace, I have to carve out myself. And the first step was letting go of the hope that they'd ever stand beside me again. The breaking point came on a humid Sunday evening. Another family dinner. Another round of quiet war disguised as roast chicken and mashed potatoes. The smell filled the room, but all I tasted was bitterness. Chloe sat next to Ryan, her posture smug, her every movement sharpened for effect. She didn't waste time. "Martin," she said sweetly, leaning toward my father, "I'm worried about Jason. He's been unstable. Maybe it's time we think about whether he should really be tied to the business anymore." Ryan kept his eyes on his plate, but I caught the flicker of a smirk tugging at his mouth. He didn't even need to speak. Chloe was his mouthpiece now. My fork froze midair. The table went silent. My father cleared his throat, nodding slowly as if her suggestion carried weight. "Maybe she's right," he muttered. That was it. The last thread snapped. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I didn't defend myself. For months, I had been clawing to be heard, only to be buried under their lies. This time, I simply set my fork down on the plate, the scrape loud in the silence. Then I stood. "What are you doing?" Chloe asked, her voice sharp with sudden panic. I didn't answer. I pushed back my chair, slow and steady. My mother's eyes widened, as if bracing for an explosion. But there wasn't one. No fists, no shouting match. Just silence. I turned, walked to the door, and grabbed my jacket off the hook. My life wasn't in that house anymore. I still lived close by, in my own small place, and I had everything I needed waiting there. Chloe's voice chased me down the hall. "You're really walking out?" Again, I didn't turn back. Their house wasn't my home anymore. It was just the stage where they performed their lies. The night air hit my face as I stepped outside, cool and steady, like freedom finally arriving. I shut the door behind me. Their voices muffled into nothing. Back at my apartment, I dropped my jacket on the couch and sat in the silence. No Chloe, no Ryan, no father telling me to grow up, no mother looking at me like I was invisible. Just me. For the first time, it didn't feel lonely. It felt like peace. The days that followed were different. The weight I'd carried for months began to lift. Work at the local auto shop kept me busy, and my boss didn't care about rumors. He cared about whether the cars rolled out in better shape than they came in. Finally, my effort wasn't being undermined by someone waiting to drag me down. And then Inevitably, the whispers reached me. Chloe had moved in with Ryan. It should have gutted me. Instead, I laughed. The image of them together, trying to build something out of ashes, was almost poetic. And sure enough, it unraveled quickly. Neighbors talked, shouting matches in the middle of the night, jealousy over texts, slammed doors that rattled the windows. Ryan couldn't trust her, and Chloe resented him for being the mirror of her own betrayal. Every time she accused him of sneaking around, she was really accusing herself. Every time he doubted her loyalty, he was reliving his own cowardice. It was their perfect punishment, and I didn't have to lift a finger. Family gatherings fell apart. 2. Birthdays, holidays, Sunday dinners. They turned into awkward Cold Wars. My chair sat empty, and my absence was louder than any argument I could have made. Without me there, the cracks widened. My father looked more tired each time someone mentioned the business. My mother's laugh had vanished. And Chloe? She didn't glow anymore. She snapped. She sulked. She picked fights at the table. And Ryan looked like a man trapped. I didn't see it firsthand, of course. I didn't go back. But word travels fast in families, and everything I heard confirmed the same truth. Then came the calls. First Chloe. A late-night text. I made mistakes. Can we talk? Then Ryan. A voicemail, his voice cracking. Jace, I know I screwed up. Maybe we can fix this. And finally, my mother, her voice soft, broken. Jason, your father and I, we miss you. Can you come home for dinner? But by then I was gone. Not far miles. I was still in the same city, but gone in every way that mattered. I had built something new. A life where my worth wasn't up for debate at the dinner table. A life where I wasn't someone else's scapegoat. Their apologies weren't for me. They were for themselves. Flimsy patches for a ship already sinking. I let the calls go unanswered. I deleted the texts. Because walking away wasn't just about leaving them. It was about finally choosing myself. And for the first time, I was untouchable. So what do you think? Was Jason right to walk away in silence? Or should he have stayed and fought to clear his name? And if your own brother and partner betrayed you like this, would you cut them off forever or try to make peace? Let me know in the comments. And if you're into wild betrayal stories like this, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.